What's good, everybody? It is your boy 5 Wars Deke. And of course, it is me, 5 Wars Deke, playing this game of Madden with the updated rosters. How about that? I do not have early access to Madden 24, but thanks to Green Machine Sam, huge shout out to Green Machine Sam. He puts in so much work to add in the rookie classes and the trades, free agents, retirements, and all those things. So that way, during the off season, you can play with the updated rosters through the offseason as you get ready for the next Madden to come out. So you're going to see Bijan Robinson in this game. You're going to see Mac Hollins at receiver for the Falcons, Baker Mayfield at quarterback for the Buccaneers, in the creamsicles that the Buccaneers are bringing back this season. So, of course, this is me playing the game. I'm controlling the Falcons, my favorite team. I actually work in Tampa Bay as a sports anchor, so all of my Tampa Bay viewers, I do apologize that I'm playing against Tampa Bay, but y'all know it's all love when it comes to me. Let me just come to y'all, not as 5 Wars Deke for the next, 10, 15 minutes, but as just the sportscaster that I actually am in real life, as David Shealy, right? We're going to talk about the harsh reality of running backs in the NFL. And, of course, this is sparked from the deadline that was reached yesterday, where Barkley didn't get his long-term deal. Neither did Jacobs, and neither did Pollard, right? And that franchise tag is, it's becoming one of those ugly words. It's becoming one of those ugly terms in the NFL. And we saw all these running backs, these elite running backs, kind of join together on Twitter and speak out against what they believe is injustice towards running backs. I want to focus on one particular tweet from Austin Eckler. And the reason why I'm choosing this one is because he says something in here that I think needs to be looked at a little bit further. So we saw how Austin Eckler said, he retweeted everybody else. This man retweeted Derrick Henry, retweeted Jonathan Taylor, he retweeted Christian McCaffrey. But here's what Eckler said. This is the kind of trash that has artificially devalued one of the most important positions in the game. Everyone knows it's tough to win without a top running back, and yet they act like we are discardable widgets. I support any running back doing whatever it takes to get his bag. Let's talk about the line where he says, everyone knows it's tough to win without a top running back. Well, Austin Eckler, the only thing anybody ever wins with a top of the line next level running back is a fantasy football championship. Anybody that actually sits down and looks at the history of the NFL and just, I don't want to say anybody that knows ball, because Austin Eckler obviously knows ball. But when you really sit down and look at the history of the NFL and its champions, you don't see elite running backs taking their teams to Super Bowl championships. And it's because they can't. They cannot. Elite running backs, next level running backs, can only take a team so far. I've said it before. I've said it publicly before. You do not need an elite, next-level, all-world running back to win a Super Bowl. You don't. Just think of all of the elite running backs that have ever played in the NFL, and most of them didn't even get to play in the big game. And if they did, they were probably a backup. So, let's just throw some out there. LT, no. Barry Sanders, no. Steven Jackson, no. Derrick Henry in the NFL now, right? No, never been in the Super Bowl. Nick Chubb now, no. Christian McCaffrey, no. Austin Eckler himself, no. Saquon Barkley, no. And there's so many other names that I could throw out there, right? You can think of all of these elite top running backs that have played in the NFL, and they never even sniffed going to a championship game. And the same thing is true for tight ends. Now, we're not talking about tight ends today. That's a whole other video that I've actually done before, and I went on a rant about it when the Falcons drafted Kyle Pitts. And then, of course, the Falcons drafted Bijan Robinson in the first round, and we're going to kind of address that a little bit later. But the truth is, having an elite, next-level running back is really cool for fantasy football, For highlights that you can watch online, because people don't watch SportsCenter for highlights anymore, so you just watch them online. You watch them on Twitter, you watch them on Instagram, you watch them on YouTube. And then, selling tickets, selling jerseys. People want that guy's jersey, right? They want to wear the jersey of the running back that's going crazy everywhere, right? People want to have a Jonathan Taylor jersey. People loved having those LT jerseys. They would wear those all the time. LT personally is my favorite running back of all time. So that's why you see me referring to him a lot. And that's because he was just that good. But he could not take the Chargers to the Super Bowl because running backs don't do that. Now, do I believe the running back position is important? Absolutely. If you can't establish a running game, you don't have a game at all. Your offensive game plan is automatically thrown into the trash if you don't have a running game. But you don't have to have an elite level running back to have that running game. Just to prove this point further, let's talk about just the last 5. We could go to the last 10, but let's just talk about the last 5 starting running backs for the teams that won the Super Bowl. All right, we're going to go over just the last 5, and that would be, of course, Super Bowls 57, 56, 55, 54, and 53. All right, let's start with the one that just happened this year, Super Bowl 57. Isaiah Pacheco was the leading rusher for the Kansas City Chiefs. Isaiah Pacheco was a 7th-round pick. Do you see him as a next-level running back? He could develop into that. He totally could. But as of right now, today, that man ain't no next-level running back, and he wasn't even the starter when the season began. The year before that, Cam Akers was the leading rusher for the Rams when they beat the Bengals in the Super Bowl. That dude ran for 21 yards on 13 carries. And anybody that had Cam Akers on their fantasy team last year, like me, knows this guy. Yeah, they don't really value him like that anymore in the league. Let's go the year before that, Super Bowl 55 between the Bucs and the Chiefs. Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette is probably the biggest name that is going to be on this list. Leonard Fournette ran for 89 yards Super Sunday in Tampa when the Bucs beat Kansas City. But Leonard Fournette was just let go by the Buccaneers. They're deciding to go with Rachaad White, who they drafted in the middle rounds last year. And Rachaad White basically took over the RB1 spot, and he's going to be RB1 this year. He's wearing the number 1 right now. He changed his jersey number to number 1 because he's the number 1 back. And guess what? Rachaad White he's good. Trust me, he's good. He's a good young guy. I've met him. I got a selfie with him in my phone. Really good dude. But you got to understand, the Bucs, well, they don't really have a championship team, and it's mainly because of their quarterback. But they could, let's say if Brady was here and the defense playing at the level that we know they can play at, which we have seen before, they could win a Super Bowl with Rachaad White, right? Because they won a Super Bowl here with Leonard Fournette, but they didn't necessarily need Leonard Fournette to win that Super Bowl. Ronald Jones ran for 61 yards on 12 carries, actually. So, they could have won that Super Bowl with Ronald Jones playing the whole time. Let's go Super Bowl 54 between the Niners and the Chiefs. That game was one where we saw Damian Williams run for 104 yards, but as we know, Damian Williams isn't the Chiefs' top running back. He wasn't treated like Priest Holmes. He wasn't treated like Larry Johnson. He wasn't treated like those guys, right? He wasn't treated like Jamal Charles. By the way, those 3 dudes never took the Chiefs to the Super Bowl because they could not do it. That's not what elite running backs do. You can only take them so far. And then my favorite, I always love telling people, look at the running backs Tom Brady won the Super Bowl with, and you tell me which one of those guys were elite future Hall of Famers. The guy who gets the nod for being the top rusher the day that New England won the Super Bowl in Atlanta is Sony Michel. Sony Michel. He's turning into like a journeyman, right? Sony Michel is just kind of floating around the NFL. He's not the established RB1 anywhere. So this is proof right here. You don't need an elite top-level running back to win the Super Bowl. I just gave you the last 5 running backs that led their teams when their team won the Super Bowl. And none of them were any of those names. Leonard Fournette is the biggest one there. But Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, they have not led their teams to the big game because that's not what that running back position does. It's not built to do that. I have a challenge for everybody. If you disagree and you think I sound crazy, okay, fine. Name me 5 running backs. Name me 5 running backs that have led their teams to a Super Bowl championship. You're going to be hard-pressed to do so. You're going to be hard-pressed. The 4 names that I typically get when I have this conversation, I usually get Marshall Faulk. I usually get Terrell Davis. I get Walter Payton, and I get Emmitt Smith. And out of those names, let's talk about Payton and Smith. Let's talk about Walter Payton. Walter Payton, greatest running back of all time. Okay? I know LT is my favorite, but when you're talking about who's just the best, the answer is Walter Payton. Walter Payton was incredibly good for many years. For many years. But a handful of those years, as good as he was, being an All-Pro, going to the Pro Bowl, a lot of those years, the Bears didn't even make the playoffs. Bears didn't even make the playoffs, man. They weren't that good. They 6-10, 7-9, 8-8, and then boom, 1984. They 1984, 10-6, lost in the conference title game, and then they won the Super Bowl in '85, lost in the divisional round in '86. But here's the key: it's not that Walter Payton suddenly just got much better. That defense improved. You look at those years Payton was the running back. That defense fluctuated, right? The defense was middle of the pack first few years that he was in town. And then they get better. They go down a little bit. They get better. It fluctuates. And then boom, 1985, they are the number 1 defense, regarded as one of the best defenses of all time, if not the best defense of all time. They were the number 1 defense. You know why? Because this phrase will never die. It will always be true. Defense wins championships. Defense wins championships. So the truth is, you do not need an elite level running back to win a Super Bowl. Okay? Barry Sanders didn't do it. Adrian Peterson didn't do it. Sean Alexander didn't do it. You can't do it. They didn't do it. So, you know, that's just part of the game, man. And I think the GMs are starting to realize that. The only GM that hasn't realized that is Terry Fontenot in Atlanta. He's been a first-round pick, 4th overall pick on Kyle Pitts, a tight end, a position that doesn't lead teams to Super Bowls, and then spent another top 10 pick on Bijan Robinson after just having a 1,000-yard rusher in Tyler Algier a year ago, picked in the late rounds. Tyler Algier got you 1,000 yards. So what you need Bijan for? You have to build a defense. In order to win a Super Bowl in the NFL, you have to have a quarterback, either an elite quarterback or a good quarterback that plays at an elite level in the playoffs. You got to have an offensive line that can protect. You have to have an offensive line that can open up space for whatever running back is back there. And then you got to have a defense that can shut it down. A defense that can force turnovers and give the ball back to the quarterback that's playing at an elite level. That's how you win a Super Bowl. That is how you do it. I could go on and on about that, but that's just what it is. So Josh Jacobs talked about, he had a Twitter interaction and was saying that he didn't try to reset the running back market. He was simply trying to get security, and I think that's the happy medium that we have to get to. In my opinion, the solution is, I think the running back market should shift into fully guaranteed contracts. They don't have to break the bank, but they should be fully guaranteed. I think you should give running backs the security that they're looking for with fully guaranteed contracts. And if you're not going to re-sign them, okay, fine, you're not going to re-sign them. Some of them will earn a second contract, and they totally should, but let's make it fully guaranteed. I think that might be the happy medium there, but I think GMs, again, are just realizing, look, we can have this running back, and he can be awesome, and we could probably get a lot back from him if we were to trade him, and we can use those picks to build up our team a little bit more on the defensive side or in the trenches. But, to them, it's just not worth keeping him on a roster and paying him all this money and having him be, about the highest paid player on the team, and that's mainly because he's not going to take you to the Super Bowl. He can't. So I disagree with Austin Eckler. You don't need a top running back to win. And I think the happy medium is giving the running backs the security that they're looking for with fully guaranteed contracts. I think that's kind of where we're going to have to stand right now. But just a lot of truth bombs on there. And I know, again, if you disagree, you disagree. We can go over that in the comments. I am willing to reply to everybody that presents an argument in a respectful manner. And I hope that made some sense. And if it doesn't make sense, I'll answer whatever questions. All right? Everybody have a blessed day. One love.